Hi there! Welcome to today's live stream, Give Your Website a Refresh. I'm Stasia, Lead Educator for Grow with Google. Today I'm broadcasting from Google's headquarters in Mountain View, California. I'm so excited that y'all tuned in today. There are more than 185 local partners hosting live stream viewing parties right now. On behalf of the entire Grow with Google team, I'd like to thank you, our partners, for supporting small businesses and helping to drive economic opportunity in your communities. And thank you to all the people who are attending. I hope you get a lot out of today's session. I wish I had time to say hello to everyone, but here are just a few partner shout-outs. Hello to the Black Chamber of Commerce in Metro OKC. Hello to the Illinois SBDC at the College of DuPage. And hi there, Micah Specialties. Thank you guys all so very much for being here today. After the presentation, we'll have a live Q&A. Our team wants to hear from you, and we want your questions. In order to submit a question, what you need to do is visit Twitter, type it in, and then use the hashtag #SpringLivestream. If you need help, ask your event host to give you a hand. Today, I'm going to start by laying the groundwork, explaining how Google Search works and how information is displayed on the search results pages. Next, I'll show you how to see if your web pages appear in Google's results and a way to preview your site on different mobile devices. Then, I will cover 5 tips that you can implement to give your site a good spring cleaning refresh. Incidentally, when you hear the phrase website refreshed, you might immediately and reasonably think about design updates. It's true. The look and feel of your website is important. Ideally, your site looks modern and attractive to the online world. Case in point, if you're still using the HTML blink tag, a design refresh is almost certainly in order. But it's also important to think about what's behind those pretty templates that people see on the web pages. Today's website refresh workshop is going to focus on the things that are mostly behind the scenes, but they can have a significant impact on the success of your website. For anyone out there who's listening who doesn't have a website yet, no worries. You can still use the suggestions that I'm going to present in today's workshop as a checklist, a punch list, to help you get off to a great start building and launching your new site. The first thing to understand is that when you are doing a Google search, you're not actually searching the entire web. You are searching Google's index of the web. Think of the web as an ever-growing library, and it's filled with billions and billions and billions of books. A book would represent a website. But unfortunately, there's no card catalog that can help you find anything. There's no central database. And on top of that, people aren't actually searching for an individual book or website. They want to find specific information inside those websites, the pages and the resources within them. So how in the world can people actually find anything? Enter the search engines like Google. Google helps people find info on the web by sorting through all of these billions of websites and web pages and showing people how they can find the answers that they are looking for. In order to do that, Google uses software called a web crawler, known as a spider or a robot or a bot. Google's crawler is known as Googlebot. Googlebot starts with a list of URLs from previous crawls, plus any new sitemap data, which I'll get to a little bit later. And then it visits the websites looking for new links to add to the index and any changes that it can find and dead links. Googlebot goes from link to link looking for new data about publicly available web pages. Any information discovered is sent back to Google servers to update the index and ultimately to help searchers find the web pages that they are looking for. Googlebot processes each page that it indexes, taking note of important information from website freshness to the keywords that are on the pages, everything that it can find, and it stores that information in the index. The index is like the index in the back of a book, and it has an entry for every word seen on every indexed web page. It's huge and it's ever growing. Google's index contains hundreds of billions of web pages, and every time someone does a search on Google, that search is looking for information that is stored and organized in this gigantic index. And there are a lot of searches happening, more than 1 trillion each year worldwide. It's hard for me at least, to wrap my head around the size of that number. So here's another way to imagine that. That was 1 second, and Google just processed about 40,000 searches. Okay, so 40,000 searches happened, and for each of the corresponding search results pages, how did Google actually decide which websites and which resources to display to the person who did the search? These decisions are all automatic, the work of a computer algorithm. Google's algorithm considers more than 200 factors or signals. These signals include basic criteria like the language and the location of the searcher, what type of device is being used, things like that. Other signals include the age of the content on the web pages, its relevance to the search query, whether the page provides a good user experience, and a whole lot more. After identifying the best set of results from the index, from information stored there, Google actually presents it to that searcher on the search engine results page. And all of that happened in just a fraction of a second. So let's take a look at an example search results page. When somebody searches Google, they typically type in a word or a phrase describing what they want to find on the web. And that word or phrase is called a search query. The tips in today's workshop are especially relevant to the results that you see in the center well of the page. These are the organic or natural search results. The information presented about each website in the organic results is called a snippet. And each snippet is going to include some information like a title that you see I've pointed out here, and a URL to the website or the web page or the resource, and usually a page description that gives searchers more information about that result. Some search results pages show a business profile on the right side of the page. Incidentally, this information can be managed by the business owner using a free tool called Google My Business. The search results may also display relevant ads, which are served up by a product called Google Ads. This illustration points out where images of products can appear at the top of the page. These are called shopping ads. You also may see text ads in the search results, which are labeled with a sticker that says ad. I'll point out one last section on the search results page. At the bottom of the search results page, you will see a list of searches related to the query. That's a cool feature that helps you see what other people are searching for. It can help you refine your search and get some insight into how people are searching Google. Now that I've covered how Google indexes information on the web and how this information is presented to searchers, you might be wondering, does my website appear in Google search? How many pages are there? How is Google presenting those pages in the results? There's more than one way to get answers to these questions, and one of the best resources available is a free service called Google Search Console. It's been around for a long time. Some of you may remember setting it up when it was called Webmaster Tools. Search Console helps you monitor, maintain, and troubleshoot your website's presence in Google's results. There's a lot of stuff that you can do with it, like confirming that Google can find and crawl your website. You can fix indexing problems. You can view Google search traffic data for your site. You can see how often your site appears in Google search results and which search queries actually show your site. You can see how often searches are actually clicking through for those queries, and you can receive alerts if Google encounters any issues on your site. You can see which websites are linking to you, and you can trouble issues. There's a whole lot to be done there. If you already use Search Console, that's awesome. If you haven't set it up yet, put it on your to-do list. You will need to set up an account, add your site or property as it's called, and verify your ownership of the site. To learn more and to get started, visit google.com/webmasters. Once you've completed these steps, the service will take it from there. Now, today's workshop does not require that you set up a Search Console account to implement the tips, but it can help. Let's look at one way to get some information about your website's presence on Google that doesn't require a Search Console account. It's called a site search. A site search isn't something that you do on your own website. It's actually a type of a Google search. It incorporates a filter called a search operator. Search operators help you to focus your search on a specific set of results. The site search operator can help you see an estimated count of the number of indexed URLs and learn some useful information about how your site appears on Google. So here's how you do it. Start by opening a web browser and going to google.com. In the search bar, enter site: your domain name. Incidentally, don't put spaces before or after the colon. That won't work. Once you have all of it in there, site: your domain, hit return, and you will see the results. Let's take a look at some examples. This is from my imaginary graphic t-shirt business, and we can see what types of insights you may be able to find when you do this type of search. So do a quick scan. Start by looking at the titles of the pages that appear. What do you see? Are they clear? Are they descriptive? Are they all very similar? Ideally, you would have a separate page title for every web page that appears. I'll get to more on that when I get into the website tips section in today's workshop. Now, next, do a quick check to see which content is showing up or what's missing. If you have a relatively small website, you may be able to immediately identify pages that are missing from the index. Now, if your site has hundreds or thousands of pages, you'll need to refine this site search and dig a lot deeper. But it's useful to get an approximate count of the number of indexed pages. Keep in mind that the results do not list the web pages in any particular order, except that the home page is typically listed first. In other words, the results that you see do not imply the rank or the importance of the pages. As a little side note, if you do decide to set up Google Search Console, you can access other tools to help, like the Index Coverage Status Report and the URL inspection tool that can provide info about Google's indexed version of a specific web page. That's another reason to set it on up after today's workshop. We'll finish the site search review by switching our gears just slightly and looking at the images results. To do that, click on the images link so you can see how the results stack up. Scan how the images are presented on that page. Do they have unique descriptive titles, or are they all similar or even identical? Are the most important images showing up? You might be surprised that some images are not appearing at all in the results. Optimizing your image files is another great way for you to give your website a refresh. Let's look at two more things, two areas where you could potentially make improvements on your website. Next up is security. There's a lot of scrutiny on data security these days, and for good reason. One step that you can take to protect your website and its visitors is by making it secure, enabling HTTPS. You can see if your website uses HTTPS by looking at the top of the web browser in the address bar. In this example, the website is labeled not secure. This status means that your data, it doesn't mean that your data will be compromised, it's only that it's potentially vulnerable. But this status can actually impact whether or not a site visitor is willing to visit the website or even submit any information there. By making your website secure, it's another great way to help provide a positive spring refresh, give people trust for your site. And I'll talk more about this and how to do it in just a little bit in today's workshop. Finally, mobile. In just about every single workshop that I teach, I include a slide or an entire section about the importance of mobile. The bottom line is it's really, really important that your website works and very well on mobile devices. Let me show you a nifty tool that's built right into Google's Chrome browser that lets you see if your website appears and how it appears on different mobile devices. So here's what you do. Start by right-clicking on a browser window. On my Chromebook, I hold the Alt key and then I click the trackpad. And then you should see a menu of options pop up. And from there, you want to click Inspect. Now you will see a sidebar that has some website code in it. At the top, look for the small icon that shows two devices, a big one and a small one, stacked on top of each other. On the slide, I added a circle to help you find it. It's the small blue circle on the right side. If you hover over it, you will see a tooltip that says Toggle Device Toolbar. Alternatively, you can click Control-Shift-M. Now you will see a navigation bar at the top with different options. Again, to help you find it on the slide, I added a circle. It's the big blue circle on the left-hand side of this slide. Now, click the down arrow symbol that you see next to the word responsive to see a drop-down menu with different device options, including Pixels and iPhones, iPads, and more. You can select the device from that list to see how your web page appears, and then you should jot down the list of any devices that you spot that might need some work for your website layout and template on those particular devices. This screenshot that we made here shows how my imaginary website might look on a Pixel. The images and the text are cut off, and it's a tough start for a potential customer who's visiting the website for a first time. If you discover that your website has similar issues on mobile devices, optimizing for mobile compatibility is a top priority for your website refresh plan. If you don't do it, about half of your site visitors, if not more, are going to have a less than easy experience using your website. Okay, now that we've identified some areas that can be improved on your site, it's time to get to the tips. So let's talk about how to give your website a refresh. Tip number 1, update your page titles and descriptions. One insight that we learned by doing a site search on the example website was that the page titles could potentially be improved. Let's take a step back. What exactly is a page title? It's a word or phrase, and you're probably going to need a phrase, that describes that web page. It's part of the code of the site, inserted into a title tag. Some content management systems let you enter a page title that gets automatically inserted into the code of the page. It is not the headline that appears in the main content area of the page. Depending on what browser you use, you may see that title near the top of the web browser, or in Google Chrome, you can see the title in the tab that appears at the top. Title tags are important. They describe the topic of the page to both searchers and search engines. While we're at it, let's talk about page descriptions too. Page descriptions can be added into the code of each web page as well. Google can then use the page titles and the descriptions that you provide to create something called a snippet, the info that it presents about a web page in the search results. It's important to review your website's title and description tags together every time you make content changes to your site. And this is going to ensure that the text that you are providing is still relevant and best describes what's on your web pages. So what makes a great page title anyway? First of all, again, keep it descriptive and concise. A page title that says home is probably the home page, but that's a huge missed opportunity for you to help search engines and the searchers understand what that home page is all about. There's not an official character limit for a page title, but if it's too long, Google may need to truncate it. So you want to keep the important information at the front of the title. Going back to my journalism days, don't bury the lead. Next, write the title naturally, as if you were writing for, well, a real person. As an example of what not to do, do not stuff keywords unnaturally into the title in an attempt to make that page seem more relevant. For example, going back to my imaginary t-shirt business, if I was writing a page title, it might be something like t-shirts seasonal promotions. And if that was a title, that's great. But if I use a title like t-shirt, comma, t-shirts, comma, t-shirt, comma, t-shirts, it's starting to look really spammy. And that can actually potentially hurt your website's presence in Google's index. Every page on your site should have a unique title. It helps Google understand how that page is distinct from all of the others. And if Google thinks that a page is a duplicate, it may not be included in the index at all. Let's talk about page descriptions. A page description may be used as part of the snippet, the text that describes a web page on the search results. Ideally, again, every page on your site would have a unique description. You can think of it as your elevator pitch for that particular page. You don't have to write the description in all complete sentences, however. You can include important data points like a product price or a publication date or the manufacturer. There is no official character limit for the descriptions, but remember to present the most important information at the start, just in case the description is truncated. If you need some inspiration, do searches on Google and see how other websites appear in the results, and you can use that to help craft your own descriptions. Now, for anyone out there who caught the phrase "may be used," well, good catch. Page descriptions, and the titles too, may actually be replaced by other on-page content if Google's algorithm thinks that it's more relevant and more accurate for that particular search results page. These decisions are all programmatic. There's no manual decision happening here. So even though you can't control what Google ultimately displays, it's best practice to provide high-quality page titles and page descriptions. Let's take a look at an example snippet for my make-believe t-shirt company. Let's say I was planning an online promotion, a seasonal offer for custom baseball t-shirts and jerseys. I might create a special landing page on my website or even an entire section. If this was my snippet that you saw on Google search results pages, you wouldn't have any information about the promotion. It's vague. It uses boilerplate language, and by the way, you might also notice that the displayed URL doesn't give me any context either. Compare that snippet to this revision. The title includes details about the featured products. It mentions that there's a seasonal offer, and you can try other words too, things like sale or promotion or deal. The description goes into detail about the content of the page, what people can expect to find there. And you'll also notice that the website uses the URL, the directory structure, to help reinforce the theme of the web pages. All this combined creates a strong snippet that search engines and searchers can clearly interpret. Earlier in the presentation, when I showed you how to do a site search, I mentioned that it's a quick way to see if your pages are in Google's index. If you suspect or discover that pages are missing from the index, you want to find a way to help Google find them. Assuming that your website pages are properly linked, Googlebot will most likely find them eventually. If my seasonal baseball t-shirt promotion has a landing page that isn't linked by or linking to any other web pages, Google may have a tough time finding it. So here's a pro tip: integrate your new landing page into a standard site template that includes navigation. But you can also help Google find your web pages, new web pages, with tip number 2, which is create a sitemap. Sitemap, the word, sounds like a table of contents, right? An index of your website, but that is not what we're talking about here. The sitemap that you need that can help here is an XML file that provides information about the web pages, the images, videos, any files that you have on your site. A sitemap is used by search engines to help find updates and new content. Here are a few reasons why you would want a sitemap. First of all, if your site is really large, and Googlebot might miss new or updated pages. If your site has a very large archive of pages that are isolated on the website or not well linked to each other. Or if your website is new and has very few external links to it. Now, a search engine does not require that your website have a sitemap in order to be indexed, but it helps them crawl the pages more intelligently, and it helps you make sure that they know about all the content that you think is important, that you want to share when people are doing those searches. Now, For anyone out there who heard me say the phrase XML file and broke into a cold sweat, don't panic. You can ask a web developer for help creating the sitemap. And honestly, creating a sitemap is a fairly straightforward process. In fact, if you're not a developer, or if you're kind of like a DIY guy or gal, you can probably make one on your own. In case in point, I am not a programmer, and I was able to use an online tool to generate my own sitemap. I used Google Search Console to then submit that XML sitemap to Google. If you want to give it a shot, visit Google's Help Center and read up more about sitemaps. The documentation also includes links to external tools that can help you make your own. If in order to find it, you can just do a Google search for Google Search Sitemaps, and you will get to the right place. Earlier, we used the site search to look at if and how a website, how the images on a website were actually indexed. And this is going to enter tip number 3, updating image names and descriptions. You might have noticed that in the example, all of the images had the same title and the same description, or very similar. So just as you would spend time optimizing your web pages, creating unique page titles and unique descriptions, it's worth the effort to help Google understand your images too. It's relatively easy for a web crawler to visit a web page and then scan the words and interpret what those words mean. It's harder for the web crawler to then visit a web page, find an image, and then know what that image is. If you want to make an effort to help web crawlers understand these images and help your images be more likely to appear in the results and more accurately, there are 2 kind of technical but manageable ways that you can help Googlebot and the other web crawlers. First, give your files descriptive names. For example, if you used a digital camera to take a photo of your latest t-shirt design, and then you downloaded the image to your computer, and then you looked at the file name, you might read something like dscn_2019.jpg. Now, that's a file name that doesn't scream t-shirt, right? It doesn't have any information that would help the web crawler understand the content of that image. But if you renamed it to be something like newbaseballtshirt.jpg, that can really help. Don't go crazy with your file names. There's not an official character limit, but again, you don't want to stuff them with keywords. The file name newbaseballtshirt.jpg, that's a good name. But if you name the same file new baseball, 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 baseball shirts, baseball jerseys, baseball, baseball, baseball.jpg, that's kind of a bad name. It's pretty spammy. When in doubt, you can check Google's Webmaster Content and Quality Guidelines. And it's a good bet that if it feels sneaky, it's a bad idea. You can also add something called alt text, which stands for alternative text. Alt text is displayed instead of images in browsers that don't display graphics. It can also improve the accessibility of your website, and it might be used to describe the images that are found in Google Image Search. Alt text is part of the HTML code that makes up web pages. If you use a content management system, you'll probably see an option to include it when you are adding an image. Incidentally, alt text is not visible on the pages of graphical browsers. For the most part, it's a behind-the-scenes description. If you actually want to show a description with an image to your human users on a graphical browser, you should add just an image caption. So while we're in here, looking at our image file names and our alt text, it's the perfect time to review the actual content. Are your images clear and focused and visually appealing? Are they up to date? Are you missing important images or videos that describe your product and your services? Adding these images and videos to your site is a great way to give it a website refresh. And it's not just a behind-the-scenes tip like most of the stuff that I'm talking about today. If you are a person, and I lump myself in this group, that has trouble finding time to work on my website, One way to sort of make that more manageable is to make a schedule. Get on a calendar and say, this Friday, I'm going to spend 15 minutes making website updates, and stick to it. Many or most modern smartphones will include a really good digital camera, and that makes it a lot easier to make updates really quickly. A reminder that when you do add images to web pages, you should optimize for file size as well. The bigger the file image, the longer it's going to take that web page to load. Some content management systems can do this for you automatically. And when you are adding images, be sure to use file types that are supported by most of the browsers, including JPEGs, PNGs, and GIFs. Website security, tip number 4, can make or break a website visitor's willingness to explore and engage with your website. This is especially true for sites that may ask for or have access to personal information like credit cards and bank accounts. 85% of consumers now say that protection from malicious websites is their biggest concern when it comes to securing their information. Browsers like Google Chrome can let website visitors know if the website that they're trying to visit is safe or risky. If you use Google's Chrome browser, you may have noticed that there are 3 symbols in the address bar, 3 options or for symbols that can appear. The gray lock icon, it lets you know that the website has taken steps to keep data protected. The eye icon means that the website does not have a private connection. Any personal data that you submit is potentially at risk. And third, that red warning icon indicates that the website has been identified as deceptive or dangerous. Deceptive sites use phishing to try to trick you into doing something like revealing a password or personal information. Dangerous sites use malicious software, sometimes called malware, that can actually hurt your computer or cause problems when you're browsing. If you see this red warning icon, you shouldn't visit the website. So, how do you, as a webmaster, get that awesome gray lock for your website? To do this, you need something called a secure certificate. A website with a secure certificate can be identified because you will see HTTPS in the URL. HTTPS stands for Hypertext Transfer Protocol Secure. In a nutshell, it adds a layer of security that protects a person's connection to your website. How does it do that? Well, first, it encrypts the data. Second, it prevents that data from being changed during the transfer. And third, it verifies that you, the user, are communicating with the website that you think you are. So you're basically talking to the right site. To learn more about adding a secure certificate to your website, you can contact your web hosting provider. If you are tuning in from a partner viewing party today, you can also ask them for help getting started. There's a lot more information in Google's Help Center. Just do a search for Google Domains SSL Certificate. Last, but certainly not least, is having a mobile-friendly website. When people see a website on a mobile device, their experience can make or break whether they move forward or just hit back and try a different website. The top culprits that I found for mobile website abandonment include a slow load time, difficulty navigating the site on a mobile device, buried content, or lengthy or complicated actions that are tough to do on that smaller mobile device. Remember, you can preview how a web page looks on mobile devices just using Google Chrome. Right-click on the web page, choose Inspect from the pop-up menu, then choose the Toggle Device toolbar and select from the options at the top of the page. And there you can preview your web page on various devices. Creating a mobile-friendly site could be its own presentation. So here are just a few tips that you can keep in mind. Organization is key. As you add content to your site, make sure that you have a plan, where it goes and what the pages are called and how other pages link to it, things like that. Make your site intuitive. People should not have to struggle to navigate around that website. It should be natural. It should be easy to do. Try to do things. Try to find things on your website from a mobile device. And any steps that you can take to simplify that experience are really going to help. And third, it has to be fast. If you've tuned into any of the past live streams or any of the presentations, you've probably heard this stat or a variation of this stat. For every second that there's a delay in mobile page load, your conversions, the desired action that happens on your site, can fall by up to 20%. So it's really, really important that if I'm using that mobile device, what I'm trying to do can happen very, very quickly. There are two other additional tools that you can use to help you evaluate how your website stacks up on mobile. First is the Test My Site tool. It can show you how fast your website is on a mobile device. Visit testmysite.thinkwithgoogle.com and enter your domain name. The tool runs a test, simulating a 4G network. You can see site speed performance, fast, average, or slow, and whether that speed changed over the previous month. You can also compare your website speed to other websites, including competitor sites, using the benchmark feature. And you'll see a list of specific technical recommendations that you or your web developer can implement to improve the site speed. The second tool is called the Mobile Friendly Test. You can get to it by visiting search.google.com/test/mobile-friendly. This tool will scan your website and let you know if it is considered mobile friendly or not. And then it will naturally lead you into that favorite tool that I mentioned at the beginning of the workshop, Google Search Console, where you can do and learn a whole lot more. Okay, I've introduced a lot of things that you can work on today that can help give your website a refresh. So let's start by wrapping up with your to-do list. This is a punch list of just some of the things that you can do to help your website. First and foremost, check out Google Search Console. I recommend that you set it up. It will take at least a few days before you can start to see data, but it is worth it. In the meantime, you can do things like try the site search operator to see how your web pages appear in Google's index. When you're doing that, read to the page titles and the descriptions that you see and make note of any places where you can make improvements to make them all descriptive and unique. Second, add a sitemap to your website, that XML sitemap. If you already have one, that's great, but you can go in and check to make sure that it's still accurate and up to date. Incidentally, you can use Google Search Console to submit and to make updates to your sitemaps. As you add new images to your website, remember to give them descriptive file names. You can add alt text to make those images easier to find for search engines and easier to understand. Incidentally, any new images that you add can also be included in your sitemap. You should also look into the option for getting a secure certificate for your website, especially if your website collects any information. This very simple step can go a long way to establish trust with your users and protecting your data. And last but not least, remember to build a mobile-friendly website. Google offers many free resources that can help you get started. Okay, so that wraps up my 5 tips for a website refresh. For all of you folks out there, it is time for our Q&A. If you would like to submit a question, here's how you do it. You will visit Twitter, you will type that question in, and then add the hashtag #SpringLivestream. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull out this nifty tablet and I'm going to start seeing if anybody out there has any questions about getting that website refresh. Let's go back here. Give me one moment. There we go. All right, let's see if the Twitter universe has any questions for me. Okay, so here's a question submitted by @GDH5. Hi, GDH5. The question is, how do you determine if a page has a good user experience? Well, there are a few ways to do that. If you're talking about a user experience on a mobile device, one thing you can do is using that inspect option that I showed you before. It's part of Google's developer tools. And it can show you what that web page will look like on the mobile device. And if you can pretty much tell right off the bat if someone's going to be able to navigate and find that information based on how it looks on that mobile device. You can also do things like actually check if we were talking today mostly about getting in Google's index. You can go into Google Search Console and there is a URL inspection tool. And so you can go and see if that particular web page appears in Google's index. So there are lots of different ways to have or to check about that user experience. Follow all of the best practices. In general, you want to have pages where the content is readable. There's also a way when you are creating a page to present data in a way that makes it easier for not only humans, but for search engines to read. It's called structured data. And it's going to be placing information in very manageable chunks. You'll have a headline, you'll have your subheads, and so you're really kind of breaking it up in a way that makes it easy for not only humans but for search engines to understand the content on those pages and have a better experience. One of the issues with the Q&A here is that there's so many things to talk about, it's hard to focus on just that one area or just that one tip. But those are the first steps that I would take for looking at a user experience. Okay, hey Michigan SBDC, how y'all doing today? I love Michigan. If there was one thing that I should ensure every small business does to help their relationship with Google, what would it be? Okay, so the question is, what would I do to make sure that a business has a good relationship with Google? Well, there are a few things that you could do. Perhaps, okay, so today's workshop was not about Google My Business, but it's one of my favorite products. So I would say for most businesses out there, one of the quickest, easiest things that you can do to help a business website appear with Google is to create a free Google My Business listing. You can get to it at google.com/business. And it helps give Google search information about that business, everything from your hours of operation to your location, your maps, all sorts of things. That's one of the first things that you can do. It's a quick hit to help a business. The second thing that I do, and referring back to the material that we talked about today, is making sure that the website that you present is first of all, accessible to Google. Google can access and index those pages. And also make sure that the website is following all the best practices, content guidelines, webmaster guidelines, quality guidelines. So those are the two places that I would start. And if you're working with a small business owner, I would also help them get started setting up Google Search Console, because in the long run, they're really going to find lots of resources and tools that can help them understand how Google sees their website so they can really intelligently know where they need to make improvements on their site. I'm defining a relationship with Google as being able to find and index those web pages. Okay, Michigan SBDC, I hope that helped. Let's go on to, hope I've got this right, at Young Novalis. Okay. The question is, how often does Googlebot recrawl a website, or should we still manually index new or changed pages? Poor Googlebot, it's a tired little bot. It is going around constantly. So the short answer is that I can't give you an exact schedule. There's no way to tell you that Googlebot will visit your page in X hours or days. However, Googlebot is constantly going around looking for web pages and recrawling. You can go into Search Console and you can update your sitemap there. It's basically like raising your hand and saying, hey, look, my website has new pages and new content, and that may help trigger Googlebot to recrawl your site. But again, there's no guarantee or no schedule. If you have a brand new website and you're like, okay, why am I not appearing on Google's or in Google's index? it does take a little bit of time. So, give it a few days, give it a week, and then after that point, I would say, okay, what do I need to do? Do I need to create that sitemap? Do I need to submit that sitemap? Things like that. But you need to give it a little bit of time. Okay, next one, at Alt Media Studios. Hi, Alt Media Studios. And it says, the question is there a way to view which other websites link to my site? Why, yes. If you create that free Google Search Console account, it includes a report that will show you which other websites are linking to yours. So if I haven't given you enough reasons, there's yet another one to create a free Google Search Console account. All right, this is from Spencer M. Field. And it says, or he says, or she says, can I work with my local SBDC office to help with the at Google My Biz verification? And I assume you're talking about Google My Business. The short answer is, I hope so. For all of the SBDCs out there, we have a partner program, and part of the program that I'm with today is called Grow with Google. And we have partnered with lots of organizations like our wonderful SBDCs all across the United States to help provide resources for small businesses. So you can contact your local SBDC office, and they should have access to our program and to resources that can then help you, a business owner, get your business listing found on Google My Business, creating that account, and optimized and verified as well. So if you have any questions about that, you can submit it through Twitter, and we would be happy to connect you with your SBDC office if you need that help. All right. That's so great. At Songsoft, I'm not quite sure what this says, or at Songsoft Igami. I'm probably butchering that name, but I tried. Okay, the question was, can you watch this video again later on YouTube? Well, unless James and Erica grab a giant hook and drag me off the stage and take the video off YouTube, then probably. The short answer is yes. You will be able to watch this video again on YouTube. I'm really flattered that you want to watch me talk about SEO and website refresh again. But yes, if you have to go back over any of the content, the information that I presented in today's live stream, you can watch this over and over and over again. Or you can ask the hosting partner if you're at one of the live stream viewing parties for help with any of the questions about this topic, and probably many, many more that you may have about your website. Okay, let's see, what other questions do we have? Let's see. Warren asks, my site isn't indexed yet. What should my first step be? So again, the most common reason that a website isn't indexed yet is that there just hasn't been enough time. If it's a brand new website and it's just launched, it's going to take some time to appear in the index. And incidentally, just because a website is indexed, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to surface on a search engine results page, or it may surface but really deep in the results. So give it some time, and then you can start implementing things like adding that sitemap, that XML sitemap that I talked about. As the site gets older, it's been on the website longer, as other websites start linking to it, which can help, improve, hey, there's a website. And remember, Googlebot finds things by going from link to link. So as other websites start linking to you as a valuable resource, as an option, as a way to answer this question, that is eventually going to help you get found and appear higher on Google search engine results page. Now, how do you get that to happen? Well, it all really goes back to actually creating a high quality website. It's one thing, I made a website, now I want everyone to find it. Well, sure, but you also need to make a website that deserves to be found. And by what I mean by that is you need to have information there that's useful, that's valuable to people who are looking for information as they search online. So going back to my tip where I was talking about optimizing images and adding images, really, seriously, create a content schedule and say, every Friday, I'm going to spend a half an hour, then 10 minutes making updates to my website. And as you start to build your website, making it a resource, a repository of valuable information for human visitors, it is going to start helping you appear and hopefully appear higher in Google's search engine results page. Now, one thing that I get hung up, or I found working with small business owners that they get kind of hung up on, is that they have an idea for content, but it's not ready yet. They want to tweak it. They need to wait for something. You do not need to write the great American novel. So when I say add an update to your website, it could literally be a link to another helpful article. It could be a small blurb. Tax season is coming up. It could be a small tip that can help you organize all of your tax paperwork better. So whatever it is, even if it's a small tidbit of information, adding it to your website and building that content on a regular schedule is going to help you. Okay, let's take a look. Do I have any other questions? Why don't my images appear? Okay, here we go. Sunny asks, what is the difference between SEO and SEM? So today's workshop is mostly talking about topics that would fall under the SEO umbrella. That stands for search engine optimization. And in a nutshell, it's all of the practices that can help your website appear in the natural results on Google search. The natural results are in that center well, and to click on a website doesn't cost that website owner any money. Just when they click on it, Google sends a visitor to the site. And you would compare that to SEM, search engine marketing, which typically refers to advertising activities. And I pointed out at the beginning where Google Ads can appear, those shopping ads and those text ads. With Google Ads, incidentally, you don't pay to appear on the page. You typically only pay if someone takes that next step and actually clicks on an ad or completes a phone call, if you've got a trackable phone number associated with the ad. So that is the primary difference. Now, sometimes people will have sort of an umbrella as search engine marketing, including SEO and paid advertising, but I differentiate as SEO the free clicks and SEM the paid clicks. Okay, thanks for your question. Let me see what else we got. Scrolling on up. Are there any other resources that we can review to help us understand? This is from Janelle. So Janelle, all of the information that you want about SEO and good guidelines for your website, you can find a lot of information just at starting at Google's Help Center. And if you go to support.google.com/webmasters, that's going to have lots of information from the Search Console Help Center. That's where you're going to find a ton of information about best practices for your site and how you can help them understand those pages. And once you get the tool set up, your free Search Console account set up, you'll be able to see lots of reports that'll tell you things like, well, can Google index those pages and which of those pages are in there? And then help you actually take individual action on particular pages where you may be having issues getting indexed. Okay, I think I've got time for just a few more questions. Let me see what else I've got here. So Mal asks, should I use SEO or Google Ads to get the word out? Okay, well, Mal, the answer is it could be both. Search engine optimization is work for the long haul. So like I mentioned today, or like you may have gathered, when you create a website, when you create a web page or an updated web page, it can take a little bit of time for Googlebot, the algorithm, to find those changes and then add those changes into Google's index. Now, assuming it's even in the index, it also assumes, or it also doesn't necessarily mean that that web page is going to surface when somebody does that search. So there's a difference between being in the index and on a search results page. One of the nice things about advertising using Google Ads is that you can pretty much be up and running, assuming your ad passes all of the quality and content guidelines, in just a matter of a few minutes once you've set it up. So the primary difference between SEO and Google Ads for many people is that ads is a more immediate way to appear on Google search results. And some people choose to do both. It's going to give you more exposure on a search engine results page to have both an ad and the organic results. If you'd like to learn more, I would go to Google's Help Center again. You can visit the Ads Help Center to learn more about that, and then you can visit the Search Console Help Center to learn more about SEO there. All right, I'm getting the signal that I have time for one more question, so let me take one more. I have a bunch here. I'm going to pick one. This is so hard. Okay, which one do I pick? All right, should we talk about page descriptions? All right. Sure, that's because that's relating back to what we talked about today. This was a question from Arlen, and she asks, what are some other things to consider when creating page descriptions? So again, a page description should accurately describe a page. Again, remember I was talking about the don't be sneaky. One thing that at one point people might try to do or had tried to do is actually writing a page title or a page description that didn't have anything to do with your page. Well, Google's wicked smart. the algorithm is. So that is not a best practice. You want to make sure that if your website is about t-shirts, the description is about the t-shirts that you are talking about on that particular web page. So that's one new best practice, is to really stay focused on that. There's no official character limit for a page description, but again, go to Google and see how other descriptions appear, and then you can craft a description that you want to show in that snippet on that search engine results page. One final tip and reminder about those search descriptions is, again, that Google won't necessarily show the description. You should still write them. You should still add them to all of the web pages that you can. But know that if the algorithm detects that there's some on-page content, a paragraph, a sentence that's on that web page that is a better match, better corresponds to that search query, that could potentially show up as the description in the snippet on that search engine results page. One more final tip before they pull me out. If you have a website that has hundreds or thousands of web pages and you're thinking to yourself, oh my gosh, I have like a year's worth of work writing page titles and descriptions and making these updates, talk to your programmer. You can also have these created programmatically in a way that can still be valuable and useful for your users and for the search engines. Okay, well that's it. They're pulling me off the stage. Let me wrap this up. On behalf of the entire Grow with Google team, thank you so much for tuning in today. I am so proud to be a part of the Grow with Google program. It's an initiative that aims to help everyone across America, from small business owners, startups, job seekers, developers, students and teachers, the people who make up today's workforce and the students who are going to drive the workforce for tomorrow. It helps access the best of Google's training and tools to grow your skills, careers, and businesses. And if you'd like to learn more about the program and all the good stuff that we do, please visit grow.google.com. Thank you again, and I hope to see you again at the next live stream. Bye, everybody.